The rain pelted against the glass windows of Harper and Company, a high-end retail establishment known for its prestige, but now serving as a storm front of tension inside. Amidst the clatter of heels and the hushed whispers of employees, Damon Carter, a well-dressed black man in a crisp navy blue dress shirt, entered the grand office space, determined to observe the inner workings of his own company. Damon had built Harper and Company from the ground up, and he was here today, incognito, keen to see if the values he preached during corporate meetings were being exercised at the ground level. Dressed as an ordinary job applicant and carrying both ambition and curiosity, he was a ghost in his own empire. It didn't take long for Ryan Jeff, the store's regional manager, to notice him. Draped in an expensive suit, Ryan's arrogance was palpable. His eyes narrowed as he systematically sized up Damon, judgment glistening in his gaze. "Can I help you?" Ryan's voice dripped with impatience, as if Damon were an inconvenience, an interruption to his day. "I'm here for the job interview," Damon replied, maintaining his polite smile. "Sales associate." Ryan couldn't hide his disdain, folding his arms in a dismissive posture that echoed his condescending nature. "Yeah, about that. I don't think you're the right fit for our company." The words hit Damon like a punch to the gut. He fought to keep his expression neutral, but inside, emotions twisted into a tightening knot. Not the right fit. He thought about the countless employees he had hired, each with a unique background, but all filled with promise and potential. It was unfathomable to be dismissed so casually by someone who had no idea of his true identity. "I'd still like to apply," Damon replied, his voice steady, consistent. But Ryan only smirked, tilting his head as if to ridicule. "Listen, buddy," Ryan sneered, taking a casual step back, his arrogance escalating. "This is a high-end retail store. Our customers expect a certain look, a certain energy." He motioned dismissively at Damon. "And well, you just don't have it." The disdain wasn't cloaked in overt racism. It was more insidious, the unspoken truths that lingered beneath society's surface. For Damon, this was a haunting echo. He'd felt this rejection before, but hearing it in his own company struck a different chord. His jaw tightened. "What do you mean by that?" Ryan chuckled under his breath, just loud enough for Damon to hear. "You people never learn." A heavy silence filled the air, tension crackling like electricity. Damon's heart raced. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every qualified black worker who had faced similar humiliation, every talented employee overlooked because of someone's quiet prejudice. "Is that your final decision?" Damon asked, stepping forward with calm determination. Ryan laughed mockingly. "Yeah, that's my final decision. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual candidates to meet with." Damon turned on his heel, the weight of Ryan's words still pressing on his chest like a stone. As he walked out of the store, he felt the storm brewing inside him. Not anger for himself alone, but for every person who had ever been told they weren't the right fit, sometimes for reasons that had nothing to do with their ability. Once outside, with the rain now a drizzle, he pulled out his phone and dialed a familiar number. "Mr. Carter?" came the voice of Lisa, his chief operating officer and close ally, on the other end. "Get the executive team on a call in exactly 2 hours," Damon said, his voice calm but unwavering. "I'll be holding a surprise visit at our downtown location. And make sure every regional manager, including Ryan Jeff, is in attendance." "Yes, sir," Lisa replied, sensing the urgency in his tone. Damon hung up, determination coursing through his veins. Today would mark a turning point, not just for himself, but for every deserving employee whose potential had been stifled. It was time to shake things up. He walked out into the damp street, rain mingling with the fire in his gut as he prepared for what lay ahead. Ryan had no idea that the next time they crossed paths, it wouldn't be as an arrogant manager, but as a man who stood atop the hierarchy of his own empire, here to demand change. As he stepped into his car, he took a deep breath, envisioning the looks of disbelief that would flood Ryan's face when he learned the truth, that Damon Carter was not just another applicant, but the very man who owned Harper and Company. The stage was set for a confrontation that neither of them would forget. As Damon Carter settled into the silent hum of his car, he felt an electric energy coursing through his veins. Today was not just about confronting Ryan Jeff. It represented a deep-seated belief that he had held for years, that no one should be judged based on their appearance or background. He started the engine, his mind racing with thoughts of how many talented individuals might have been overlooked under Ryan's watch. Driving through the rain-slicked streets to the downtown location, Damon envisioned the meeting ahead. The perspective of the executive team, the tension in the air as he revealed his identity, and the eventual fallout for Ryan. The thought of the regional manager squirming under the weight of his own arrogance was almost satisfying. Upon arriving at Harper & Company's headquarters, Damon walked through the building, the familiarity of the space washing over him. This was his creation, the laughter of employees, the rustle of retail, the bustle of what he had built. Every corner was filled with memories of late nights and early mornings, of setbacks and triumphs. As he stepped into the elevator, anticipation hung thick in the air. He pressed the button for the conference room. The 5 floors felt like an eternity, each ding of the elevator heightening his resolve. This wasn't just a disciplinary meeting, it was a statement. It was time to recalibrate the culture that had festered within his walls. When he reached the conference room, Damon took a moment to compose himself. The glass doors stood before him, revealing a long table where the key players of the company would soon gather. Deep breaths grounded him, and he pushed the doors open. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. Ryan sat at the head of the table, flanked by a few other managers, their expressions a mixture of apprehension and confusion. They hadn't been informed about the abrupt meeting or its true significance. Damon's presence shifted the energy as he walked in, confidence radiating from him. He scanned the table, meeting the wide eyes of each executive, lingering for a moment on Ryan, who looked as if he was staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. "Good afternoon, everyone," Damon began, his voice smooth yet authoritative. "Thank you for coming to this meeting on such short notice." He stepped toward the front, allowing the dramatic weight of his arrival to settle over the room. "For those of you who don't know me," he continued calmly, "my name is Damon Carter, and I own Harper & Company." Gasps erupted in the room. Whispers of disbelief and astonishment raced like wildfire amongst the executives. Ryan's face paled, his smirk quickly disappearing, replaced by a look of utter horror. Damon crossed his arms, looking directly at Ryan. "Ryan, we have a lot to discuss. I want to know how you, that's supposed to be leading this company, could make decisions about who fits into our brand before even giving them a chance." Thoughts raced across Ryan's face as he struggled to find his voice, realizing the implications of his earlier dismissal. "I didn't mean..." Damon cut him off, stepping closer with each word laced with intensity. "You've been taking it upon yourself to reject qualified candidates, to judge them based on nothing more than your prejudices. You didn't just make a mistake today. You upheld a toxic culture." The other managers shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between Damon and Ryan. The uncomfortable tightening that had settled in the room added a palpable tension. It felt as if the air itself were holding its breath. Damon turned his focus to the team, scanning their faces, gauging their reactions. This isn't just about one incident, though. Ryan's actions reflect a larger issue, a culture that has allowed discrimination to thrive under our roof, even if it was masked in professionalism. "I assure you, Damon, Mr. Carter," Ryan stammered, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. "This isn't how it typically is. It was a one-off." "A one-off? Is that what you tell yourself?" Damon countered, his voice ringing with authority. "Let me remind you that I've got records. I've seen the complaints. How many employees have come forward to express their concerns about your treatment of them? How many applicants have you dismissed without reason?" Ryan visibly recoiled as he realized this meeting was not just a simple reprimand. It was his reckoning. He glanced around the table, surveying the faces of colleagues who had once stood by him. Some expressed sympathy, others looked on in judgment. For Damon, it was a moment of clarity, fueled by the faces of so many workers who had been overlooked and rejected. "Today, you will be held accountable, and you will see firsthand how your actions have consequences." Damon paused for effect, letting the weight of his words simmer. "Effective immediately," he said, his tone firm, I'm forming an oversight committee that will ensure that our hiring practices align with our values of inclusivity and respect. The first step will be conducting a full investigation into your leadership practices. Ryan's eyes widened. You can't do that. I'm the regional manager. I have seniority. Damon leaned in, lowering his voice enough to ensure only Ryan could hear. Not anymore. Your reign ends here. The tension in the room was palpable as Damon straightened again, eyes cutting through the fear shimmering in the air. Now, I want every employee you've wronged, whether by wrongful termination or dismissal. We'll ensure they receive the opportunity they were denied. And as for you, Ryan, Damon continued, I've made my decision. You are no longer regional manager. Your employment here is terminated. Silence swallowed the room as Damon's words hung heavily in the air. Ryan's face crumpled, a mix of disbelief and humiliation washing over him. You can't be serious, he spluttered, desperate to salvage whatever dignity he could cling to. You'll regret this. Damon regarded him coldly. You just failed not only as a leader in this company, but also as a human being. You thought you could wield power without accountability, but not here, not in my company. His resolve echoed within the walls, reverberating through the hearts of those who had felt marginalized. This was their moment, a turning point for Harper and company. Lisa, Damon called, signaling for his chief operating officer. Please escort Mr. Jeff out. His time here has come to an end. As Lisa stepped forward, the grip of authority returned to Damon's posture. With one final glare, Ryan stood to leave, the air thick with the remnants of his anger and humiliation. As he stormed out of the room, Damon turned back to the executive seated before him. Team, this is just the beginning, he stated. We have a lot of work to do to repair what has been broken. What happened today can't go unnoticed. We will not only rebuild, but reimagine what it means to be part of Harper and Company. If we do this right, we'll come out not just as a company, but as a community. Determined voices began to resonate within the conference room, the kind of voices filled with hope and intrigue. Change had arrived. Turmoil had spurred a revolution, and Damon stood firmly at the helm. As he prepared to discuss new policies, addressing the many who had been wronged, Damon felt the first glimmer of relief wash over him. Today was merely one chapter in a new narrative. It was a chapter of equity and justice, one that would be written together. The days that followed Ryan's departure were a whirlwind of activity at Harper and Company. Damon's revelation had sent shockwaves throughout the organization, but it had also brought about a sense of hope and renewal. The company's headquarters was abuzz with excitement as employees from all levels gathered to discuss the future of the company. Damon had called for an emergency meeting with all staff members, where he outlined his vision for a more inclusive and diverse workplace. He spoke of the need for change, of the importance of creating an environment where everyone felt valued and respected. The room was filled with a sense of anticipation as employees listened intently, many of them nodding in agreement. As the meeting came to a close, Damon announced the formation of a new diversity and inclusion committee, tasked with implementing policies and procedures to ensure that the company's hiring practices and workplace culture were fair and equitable. He also announced a series of town hall meetings, where employees could share their concerns and suggestions for improving the company. The response was overwhelming. Employees who had previously felt marginalized or excluded began to speak out, sharing their stories and experiences. The town hall meetings were packed, with employees from all departments attending and participating in open and honest discussions. Damon was present at every meeting, listening intently to the concerns and suggestions of his employees. He was determined to create a workplace where everyone felt valued and respected, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. As the weeks went by, Harper and Company began to undergo a transformation. The company's policies and procedures were revamped, and new training programs were implemented to ensure that all employees were equipped to work in a diverse and inclusive environment. The company's hiring practices were also overhauled, with a focus on attracting and retaining top talent from all backgrounds. Damon personally oversaw the hiring process, ensuring that every candidate was given a fair and equal opportunity to succeed. The results were almost immediate. Employee morale began to soar, and the company's reputation as a fair and inclusive workplace began to spread. Top talent from all over the industry began to take notice, and Harper & Company became a destination employer for those who valued diversity and inclusion. As the months passed, Damon's vision for a more inclusive and diverse workplace began to take shape. The company's culture was transformed, and a sense of community and belonging began to emerge. Employees from all backgrounds and departments began to come together, sharing their experiences and perspectives and working towards a common goal. One day, as Damon walked through the office, he was stopped by a young employee who had recently been hired. "Mr. Carter, I just wanted to thank you for creating such a welcoming and inclusive workplace," she said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I feel like I could be myself here, and that's an incredible feeling." Damon smiled, feeling a sense of pride and satisfaction. "You're welcome," he said. "That's exactly what I wanted to create. A place where everyone feels valued and respected, and where we can all work together to achieve great things." As he continued on his way, Damon couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had taken a stand, and he had made a difference. Harper & Company was no longer just a company. It was a community, a family of diverse and talented individuals who were working together to achieve greatness. The journey was far from over, but Damon knew that he was on the right path. He had created a workplace where everyone felt valued and respected, and where diversity and inclusion were celebrated. And as he looked out at the bustling office, he knew that the future of Harper & Company was bright, and that the best was yet to come. Years later, Harper & Company would be recognized as one of the most diverse and inclusive companies in the industry. Damon's vision had become a reality, and the company had become a model for other organizations to follow. Damon's story would inspire countless others to take a stand and make a difference. He had shown that even the smallest actions could have a profound impact, and that creating a more inclusive and diverse workplace was not only the right thing to do, but also a sound business strategy. As for Ryan, he would never forget the lesson he had learned. He would go on to work for other companies, but he would never again underestimate the power of diversity and inclusion. He would become an advocate for creating workplaces where everyone felt valued and respected, and he would always look back on his time at Harper & Company as a turning point in his life. The story of Damon and Harper & Company would serve as a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one person can make a difference. It would inspire others to take a stand, to challenge the status quo, and to create a more inclusive and diverse workplace. And it would show that with courage, determination, and a commitment to doing what is right, anything is possible. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the Harper & Company building, Damon Carter stood at the window of his office, reflecting on the remarkable journey he had undertaken. The bustling energy of the workplace was palpable, infused with a sense of purpose and unity that had blossomed since his bold decision to confront Ryan. Employees from various backgrounds, cultures, and experiences now collaborated as a cohesive team, thriving on the spirit of collaboration and mutual respect. In the months that followed Ryan's departure, Damon had succeeded in revamping not just the company policies, but also the very essence of Harper & Company. It was no longer just about profit margins or quarterly reports. It had become a sanctuary for creativity and innovation, driven by inclusivity. With the formation of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, workshops were held regularly, encouraging empathy and understanding within the workplace. Employees shared stories of challenges they had faced, and celebrations of cultural heritage became central to the company's events calendar. Each festivity, a Diwali celebration, a Lunar New Year feast, Pride Month activities, strengthened the bonds among employees, fostering a culture built on camaraderie. As the company flourished, so did its reputation. Harper & Company began receiving accolades for its commitment to diversity and became a sought-after employer for top talent across the nation. The media took notice, with articles praising the company's transformation, and Damon often found himself invited to share his journey on various panels and podcasts. He spoke not only about the successes, but also about the challenges along the way, consistently emphasizing the importance of listening and learning from those around him. However, As he gazed out at his thriving workplace, Damon realized his role was more than just a company leader. It was also that of an advocate. With this realization, he decided it was time to expand their mission beyond the walls of Harper and Company. Inspired by the voices he had heard during the town hall meetings, Damon announced an initiative to partner with local schools and community organizations aimed at mentoring students from underrepresented backgrounds, helping them access educational resources and career opportunities in retail and business. The program was met with overwhelming enthusiasm. Employees volunteered as mentors, organizing workshops on resume building, interview skills, and professional development. Schools welcomed this initiative, recognizing the tangible impact it could have on their students' futures. Within a year, the program had grown significantly, impacting hundreds of young individuals, many of whom went on to pursue careers at Harper and Company or in related fields. But Damon didn't stop there. He launched an annual scholarship in honor of those who had been overlooked in their professional journeys, ensuring that financial barriers would not hinder hardworking students with dreams of making their mark in the business world. One evening, during an annual company celebration, Damon stood before the gathered employees, beaming with pride. "This isn't just our success," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "It's a shared triumph for all of us. We have become something incredible together, and it's crucial that we continue to pay it forward. Our responsibility extends beyond the workplace. Let's lift each other up, empower the next generation, and remind them that they too can shape their destinies." The applause that followed wasn't just a reaction to his speech. It was a collective affirmation of the journey they had all traveled together. In that moment, Damon recognized that he had not only transformed a company, he had ignited a movement. As the years rolled on, Damon remained the heart of Harper and Company, a figure of integrity and passion. He encouraged dialogue, innovation, and continuous improvement, knowing that the world was ever-changing, and so too should the company be. Years later, standing before a crowd at a business summit, Damon reflected on the lessons learned. "It's not just about making decisions," he said, "it's about understanding the impact of those decisions on real lives. People do not just come to work. They bring their stories, their dreams, and their potential. When we lift them up, we elevate not just our organizations but the communities around us." The legacy of Harper and Company rippled outward, inspiring other businesses to reassess their practices and embrace diversity as a core value. Companies across the nation began to champion inclusivity with the same fervor, acknowledging that a diverse workforce brought fresh perspectives that drove innovation and success. And so, Damon's story became synonymous with change, a narrative that would echo for generations, reminding future leaders of the power that lies in empathy and understanding. As Damon turned away from the podium, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had begun with a single moment of courage and conviction, and it had transformed into a legacy that would continue to impact lives long after he stepped back from his role. In the end, it was never just a story of a company. It was about a community that had come together, sparked by one person's decision to stand up for what was right. And in that unity, they had crafted a new chapter that would inspire hope, possibility, and resilience. The narrative of Harper and Company was now woven into the fabric of change, one that would stand the test of time. And as Damon walked into the vibrant offices, he smiled, knowing that while this chapter had concluded, the story of Harper and Company was only just beginning.